In the terror of beginning to witness the unconscious process, there's a real temptation to get rid of the meditation because it's like this shit is not working. It doesn't work because all I'm seeing is how judgmental I am. And that is actually a benefit of the practice. It's a feature of the practice. It's not an anomaly. It's not a mistake. The whole point is to be able to witness the nonsense that has been going on inside. Why is that? Well, in the process of seeing it, we are then given this beautiful fork in the road. Do I continue down this path or do I choose another path for myself? Are you finding yourself face first in the mud, tripping over those branches and logs and roots and falling face first into the dirt and tired of it? You keep falling into old habits and vices. Well, on today's episode of our weekly discourse series, we are sharing what it's really like being on the spiritual path. Hey, it's David. I'm a sniper turned meditator and yogin, and I'm also the director of Kailash Ashram, a traditional meditation and yoga retreat here in the Grampians in Australia. In case you're new around here, we love to share inspiring content to help you stay motivated to meditate and practice yoga every single day. If your mindset is right, you will attain that inner peace that you are yearning for. Stay tuned for this latest installment of our weekly discourse series where we tackle questions from members from our community. Tonight we're talking about what it's like to fall down, dust yourself off, pick yourself back up and keep marching, which is the story of life. So the first thing that I'd like to speak to tonight is the notion of falling down. And it's something that I've formed a very, very interesting relationship to that over the years of practice. I grew up in a very academically well-performing school. I wasn't particularly high-performing amongst that school, but it was known for its academic performance and also for many different co-curricular activities that it would push students into. And maybe many of you resonate with the competitiveness that can be imposed upon children, and in particular, everybody in our society. We like to push hard and we like to push against each other. Now, that pressure, the tension can elicit really quite good performance. You think of a 100-meter sprint, and the sprinter who has the adrenaline rush of the gun going off and the people either side of them will get a PB, not in isolation, but in competition with others. So it can elicit high performance. And high performance can stoke a certain aspect of our being. For me, that is really the center of ego, and so that's the I won the race kind of feeling. If you are that sprinter that comes across the line, or it might be the person who wins the test, or perhaps it's up the other end of the spectrum. You're coming last and feeling a little bit dejected in that manner. So we live in a context and a society that this competitiveness against each other is normalized, and we reap the benefit of it via the high performance, via academic excellence, via the selective processes that push everybody to be better in some measures. Now, I think the key measure that we overlook in that competitive environment is the internal state for both the winners and the losers and everybody in between. One might ask, like, what is the unconscious imposition that is put onto us, or what are the ramifications, what are the flow-on effects of growing up in that environment? And so competition was deeply, deeply ingrained into all aspects of my being. And what actually then began to happen in a really kind of quite tragic way, now I look back, I wasn't aware of this at the time. I used to compete against myself. So I completely normalized this pushing and striving mentality. And what I built was a really strong, harsh inner critic. I was my worst enemy. And I wasn't even really aware of how much negative self-talk there was in my life for the majority of it prior to beginning the process of meditating and actually examining the insane thoughts that were going through my head. And so part of this incessant narrative of pushing and striving is a really negative view on my mistakes, on my fallings down, on any time I would fail to win, or I would fail to meet the expectation that I had set for myself. I would then immediately turn to reinforce an unconscious narrative of unworthiness. And so this is actually a feedback loop that just spirals out of control. You feel unworthy, so your performance suffers next time and your expectations aren't met. Then you increasingly feel lesser and lesser of a being until a real rot of worthlessness sets in. And the path of meditation and yoga, self-cultivation, of consciously deciding to examine and heal and grow beyond these quite toxic ways of relating to self. Well, meditation and yoga is the ancient method of this self-development, essentially. And tonight I'd really like to explore what it's like to straddle the balance between being aware of one's shortcomings, but making a conscious decision to balance the self relationship. Okay, you can swing off the other end of the spectrum and suddenly instantaneously forgive yourself in the moment that you're doing some wrong. Somebody cuts you off in traffic and you yell at them. Well, and then you reflective or, with reflex start calling on, oh no, that's okay. I'm a work in progress and it's okay that I yelled at that person. No problems. It won't happen next time, and then boom, it happens again. And you just let yourself off the hook, I guess is the word that I'm looking for. Or the phrase that I'm looking for. And so if all one does is let themselves off the hook, this golden opportunity for soulful introspection is missed. And the name of the game in particular with the Himalayan meditation practice is to enhance and turn the volume up of that soul so that one can have a very balanced view of oneself without throwing the baby out with the bathwater. That faculty for deeper introspection is a sign of maturity upon the spiritual path, upon the path of self-cultivation. In fact, what Swami Shiv Krupanand lays out is that initially we get maybe quite unconscious in our life, and if circumstances aren't favorable to us, we blame outwards. That can be the default setting. I'm not happy because the government has this, and I wasn't given all of the advantage that this person had, or the neighbors have got a better deal over there, or this person won the lotto, and oh God, it's society's fault that I'm unhappy. That can be it's a caricature of the position, but that's how many people can feel, or how the assumptions that many people operate from. Now you swing that up onto the other end and you go, okay, I'm going to engage in this practice of meditation, and then suddenly you see your judgmental attitudes. You see your capacity to blame and project onto others their shortcomings. You see with clarity. And my instantaneous result was like, oh my God, I'm a madman and I'm really nasty. I'm horrible. And in the terror of beginning to witness the unconscious process, there's a real temptation to get rid of the meditation, because it's like, this shit is not working. It doesn't work because all I'm seeing is how judgmental I am. And that is actually a benefit of the practice. It's a feature of the practice. It's not an anomaly. It's not a mistake. The whole point is to be able to witness the nonsense that has been going on inside. Why is that? Well, in the process of seeing it, we are then given this beautiful fork in the road. Do I continue down this path, or do I choose another path for myself? And so each time one catches themselves from a balanced and centered place, rather than oh, I'm a bad person, this thing happened again, or, oh yeah, that's okay, I forgive myself, I'm off the hook and it happens again. See yourself at a crossroads with two paths that you can go down. You go down this way, you go down this way. And staying centered, integrating the lessons that may have been surfacing from a situation, and most importantly, choosing to continue walking. Invariably, what's going to happen is that you will stumble again upon this path. And earlier in the week, I took my daughter, who's 21 months old, out for a walk. And the spirit which captured her as she was walking, and we bought her her godparents got her some gumboots that are like twice as big as her feet, plenty of growing room for the gumboots. And so she continually stacked it onto the ground in front of her. And as she tripped over her feet, her hands went out and she went down as hoof. She took some pretty decent hits for a little kid. And this paled into insignificance compared to her mission, which was, she was outside, she was exploring, and she picked herself up and just kept going and kept going and kept going. This is the persistence that is required. She didn't blame herself. She didn't cry to God. She didn't whinge about the gumboots being too big. She learned in that repetitive fashion to keep going forward and forward and forward. And she came to some stairs today, and with, she'd been able to climb down these stairs with normal shoes on, but the gumboots provided this kind of horrible obstacle for her to go down a dangerous flight of stairs. And rather than abandoning the endeavor because she was in unfamiliar territory, she kind of looked around, realized that I was dragging my feet and that I was still inside putting my shoes on. And she improvised and adapted around the situation that presented itself. Now, what on earth does this have to do with yoga and meditation? Well, and in case you haven't realized, no 2 days are the same. Yet every day follows some quite predictable rhythm of sun rising and sun setting and moon and the seasonal influences and the planetary conditions, and, well, you wake up and you're still on planet Earth. But there is a uniqueness to each and every day, and one cannot have a one-size-fits-all solution to all encounters. Otherwise, we would just be caught by animalistic drives. So what we do in the path of yoga is to learn to relate to the body, the mind, and the social situation as it's presenting itself here and now. And hidden inside of the present is the options that you can walk down, the paths that you can walk down. It's not rocket science, okay? The mind itself will like to pull you into past and future, trying to understand what happened last time, trying to avoid that hurt again. But hidden inside the present moment is true responsiveness to the situation. And this is the birth of correct action. And one day it might look like speaking your truth, and then the next day it might look like biting your tongue. Okay? It might be one day you are called to speak your truth and you don't, and that's the equivalent of you falling down. And so if we get caught in the mud, if we fall down and then stay in that situation, what we do is we miss the capacity to read that next moment anew, again and again and again. You know, I can't remember the author, but the quote is etched into my mind that every moment is a new beginning. And it truly is. It's only the memory that holds on to it's the memory that holds on to the past. That's what it does. That's its faculty. Now that is a useful thing. I'm not shitting on memory, but what I am encouraging you, if you so feel called, is to not become a prisoner of the memory. And similarly, not to become a hostage to the future, but to arrive into the present with an understanding that insight and correct action emerges from emptiness, not from busyness. If you want to come up with a good idea, don't look at a page that looks like, I'm reaching off my crazy, scramblings on the page. I'm not going to come up with a good idea on this page. I'm going to come up with a good idea when I meditate and then I pull out a blank sheet. And I don't think. I allow. And something comes forward. And so when you begin to relate to your physical body like that, okay, that is a very, very different thing than going, okay, this morning I'm going to do 3 sets of this, then 10 sets of that, and 10 sets of this, then I'm going to do this and this and this and this. That's a great place to start. Routine and structure and habit is a great place to start. But it is not the final destination upon the path of yoga. The final destination is having the awareness to know what is required on a given day. How do you work that out? Well, the intuitive faculty is what will guide that process, not the intellect. When the intellect gets involved, and remember, intellect is computing past and then projecting it into the future. When that intellect gets caught by a desire, I want to be this flexible so that I can attain, I want to be able to sit in this pose for 3 hours, and so it takes something it saw and projects off a future. Well, this is how you wind up getting hurt. I saw this person who was really, courageous and could just, dominate a social scene, and that's what I'm going to hold up as the highest virtue. And so, you take one example, one role model, one situation, take it out of context, believe that that's right for you, and then impose yourself onto a situation and make a complete fool of yourself. And it's like, well, that's you trying to be someone else and taking something you saw and making it into something it isn't. What yoga allows is those hidden seeds that were planted within us from our own birth to find fertile soil to begin to grow. And the unique gifts and talents begin to emerge. That is a very different thing than stylistically copying others. This is called finding your voice. And this spirit that pulls us out of the mud, right? That persistent spirit that is like, boom, I fell flat again. I got angry again. I got resentful again. Oh, that intrusive thought came back again. That's the falling down. you get strong in the moment that you pick yourself up. And as you pick yourself up for the 1,000th or 10,000th or millionth time, suddenly that reflex, encounter adversity and challenge, immediately keep oriented to your goal. Well, what does that remind you of? Sitting there to meditate. Thought comes in, let go, oriented to goal. Thought comes in, let go, orient to the goal. Thought comes in, let go, keep oriented. Where? Well, think about a seed. When a seed breaks its existence as a tight little protected thing, it shoots part of itself all the way to the light and it roots down in the other direction. And so we go fully into our soul in the meditation, and we also go fully into our humanity. Okay, it is not a journey of just like, let me get out of here. I want to eject out. I want to be done with Earth. I'm trying to like just go up to the light. It's like, yeah, that's a really noble thing to have the correct orientation upwards towards the light. But we are human beings and we must have roots. Well, those roots are the humanity that we find ourselves embedded in. What do I mean by that? I mean that we are all sons, many of us and daughters, and many of us are parents, and many of us are siblings, many of us are employees or bosses of others. And so, I hate the term, by the way. I hate this term, and I'm not using it, but many people use this term of spiritual bypassing. I don't like it for a bunch of reasons. But what I understand that the intent that they mean is that people go upwards without rooting into the earth as well. And that's what I believe they mean by bypassing. Denying the karma, forgetting the family, forgetting their postcode, forgetting the responsibilities. And that is going to lead to a fall that is like... It's like a fall from friggin' space, re-entry and kersplat onto Earth. And you see way too many people who attain some lofty height inside of any spiritual field succumb to the reality of their humanity at some time or another. In case you don't know it, we're all full of shit and we need to go to the bathroom. And if we don't, then we're definitely not going anywhere in this life. In fact, if you're in hospital, they won't even let you out if you're that backed up. So we go upwards towards the light and we root ourselves down into what? Sometimes it's dark, but it's also safe, secure, stable earth. It is fixed. So falling down into the mud might be a reminder to get the roots in. And then picking yourself up might be that reminder to keep your attention oriented upwards, to grow upwards towards what? Towards the light, to lightheartedness within, to the light of awareness, to the lightness that we can hold our own ego and sense of self. And when we hold ourselves lightly from a tethered and grounded place, then we're generally a pretty good person to be around. And if we're not oriented to the light and we're just fixated upon the mud, it's like we've fallen down, and not only have we fallen down, we're trying to dig a bigger hole and go deeper and deeper and deeper into the muck. That absence of light is going to make you not such a likable, affable person to be around. And this is just the way it is. Remember that yoga is that art of coming into alignment with nature as it is, not how we think it should be, but the reality of the circumstance. And the reality is that if you are caught by the mud too often and you don't orient upwards, well, no one's going to want to hang around with you. Significant others, family, bosses. And what sort of human are we without those connections to the world around us? Okay, it may well be okay for a mountain ascetic who lives in the middle of nowhere, who loves meditating in a cave, to go through a few decades of that without the pressure of needing to be in society. But the practices that we share, Hatha Yoga, Himalayan meditation, they're both practices that are suitable actually designed for householders. So all of these worldly responsibilities, the roots on the path in front of us, okay, that beautiful blue sky that we can grow into, all of that great, rich tapestry of human interconnectedness is here for us to learn from and to grow through and to be with, not to renounce or push away, but to be fully involved and engaged with. What place from, though? That is the $1 million question. And for me, my life when I was engaged with the world from a position of wanting to exert control or undue influence onto the surroundings around me because of the competitive spirit, because I fought against people, because that's what I saw everyone else doing, led me to suffer. And so how can I go from, it's like two dance partners trying to compete against each other. It's a cockfight, they end up not really getting anywhere. And you look at that compared to two dancers who work off each other's energy. How can you find that sense of collaboration into the dance of your life with the world around you? Boom, negative energy comes in. Someone calls you up and you're at work and they're super hostile, or you get that email, or you get the call, you get something that comes out of the unexpected future that pulls itself into the present, and pow, you don't know what to do. Are you going to fight it because of the competitive nature of yourself, or are you going to dance with it in a graceful manner? When you fall down, are you going to blame the person who put the log there? Are you going to tell yourself you're an idiot for stacking it once again into the mud? Or do you go, well, cost of doing business as a soul on earth. Thank you, Mother Earth. I'm nice and close to you. I'd like to be standing now. And you pick yourself up and you dust yourself off. Well, the fact that my not even 2-year-old daughter showed that indomitable, beautiful spirit indicates to me that, well, it's actually a natural thing, this balance. It isn't something we need to work hard at being in balance in that relationship. We just need to let go of the cultural models and let go of a little bit of the mental conditioning that we've suffered, so that we return with a little bit more wisdom back to that childhood innocence. So in that spirit, sitting as the innocent child, not caring so much if your meditation's going to be a good one or a bad one, I invite you to find a comfy seat, get cozy. I've got a bowl. It's the office bowl. We've got an office bowl. I've even got an office stick. So I haven't worked out if I'm going to sit on the floor or stay seated on the chair, but it's been lovely to have you along. Siobhan as well, I see you've popped in there, and a few new faces, or people I haven't been able to see when I'm normally hooked up onto the phone in the yurt. So really appreciate your attention and coming here, and I pray that you have a beautiful week ahead. Keep at that journey of being a soul. It ain't so complex. A little bit of practice, a little bit of water, a little bit of sunlight every day for it, and it will guide you. That's one thing that you can be sure of. Okay, Jayat Meshwar, and much love. Okay, so for those new here, we will have a little silent goodbye. So one ding to go into the meditation. I'll guide you for a moment. You can then find your comfortable seat, and at 30 minutes or at 9 o'clock, I will ding 3 times to let you know that the meditation has finished and you can go quietly off to bed. Okay, much love, and we'll see you next week. Okay, so finding your comfortable seat. And taking your right hand, placing it on the top of the head, and gently pressing in 3 clockwise circles. Keeping the awareness on the top of the head as you gently take the right hand back to the knee. I am a holy soul. I am a pure soul. I am a holy soul. I am a pure soul. I am a holy soul. I am a pure soul. Jayat Meshwar, thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to keep the wisdom flowing, please check out this video up here, I think, where I'll share with you the art of the dance.